All right, today we are going to learn how to convert a decimal to a fraction. When I say convert, that's really just a fancy word for change. So how to change a decimal to a fraction. Here are your steps, and we are just going to get started with some examples so you can see the steps in action. So with this first example, how would you say this number? If you're looking at your place value and you're using your place value correctly, you would say 7/10. Well, let's write 7/10 like a fraction. 7/10. Is there anything to simplify? Nope. So you just did it. You just took a decimal and you made it into a fraction. These two things are equivalent. One's a decimal, one's a fraction, but they have the exact same value. You did it. You converted your first decimal to a fraction. All right, let's look at the second one. How would you say this one? 43 hundredths. 43 hundredths. Well, 43 hundredths. And again, is there anything to simplify? There's not. These two things have the exact same value. This one's just a fraction now. We're going pretty quick so far. Let's look at number 3. How would you say this? 8/10. 8/10. But now I can simplify. Both of these are divisible by 2, so that now becomes 4/5. So what we figured out there is 8/10 as a decimal is equivalent to 4/5 as a fraction. It's also equivalent to 8/10 like a fraction there, but we want it in simplest form, and 4/5 is simplest form. All right, our next example, 44 hundredths. 44 hundredths. And this one we definitely can simplify. We can divide by 2 if you want. If you immediately know it's 2, then you can go there. That would end up being 22/50ths. But that's still not fully simplified. We'd have to divide again. We get 11/25ths. And if you're sitting there saying, oh, but I know that 44 hundredths actually has a greatest common factor of 4, you would just have to divide a little less. You'd only have one dividing step instead of 2. So then you would say, I still get the same thing, but then I only have to divide it once. And you'd be right. So, in the end, 44 hundredths is equivalent to 11/25ths. That is the fraction in equivalent form. We have 2 last examples here. Now we're talking about a different place value. So if we say this number, we have 25 thousandths. And you could divide by 5, but then you'd have to divide by 5 twice. Or you could know that the greatest common factor is 25, and you would end up getting 1/40. So 25 thousandths is the same as 1/40. And last is this, 4 and 35 hundredths. 4 and 35 hundredths. Is 35 hundredths in simplest form? No, they're both divisible by 5. So we end up with 7/20. And don't forget about this 4 that was in front. So your answer is 4 and 7/20 is equivalent to 4 and 35 hundredths. You did it. You just changed all those decimals to fractions. Go get them.